In this episode, we'll review my first watch collection purchase. But there's so many watches to choose from. What should I select? Well, I think I'll keep it fairly simple and go with a field watch. But even with field watches, there are so many. There's Citizen, Hamilton, Luminox, Marathon, Oris, Rolex, Seiko, Timex, Tudor, Victorinox. What am I going to choose? Stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of Adventures with Time. I'm your host, Bob. Now, before we get into talking about my first watch collection purchase, I'd like to recommend to you a podcast from Worn and Wound. Their episode number 72 talks about being a watch collector. I'm a token collector, as I said before. That's part of exonumia. And in token collecting, you want to collect one of every type of token within your sphere of collecting. With watches, that can't be done unless you really focus in on a specific type of watch, like military watches, or even military watches from a certain country, like Germany. But how many watches can you actually have, especially of the same type? So they get into an interesting discussion around why you collect, and is the joy of collecting in having the watches, hunting for the watches, or even looking at the different watches in your collection and comparing them. What is your guiding principle in collecting? Well, for me, it's trying to start out with getting a variety of watches from different countries, watches of different types, and watches with different complications. But I don't want just the run-of-the-mill common watches that everybody would recognize. I'd prefer to go for something that the non-collector would not recognize and find interesting and maybe query me about it. Now, to watch collectors, they may be well known, but to the average person who doesn't collect watches, there'll be something unique that they haven't seen before. And that's what I'm going to try to obtain. But even looking at specific watches or watch types, there are a lot of them. And this gets me to the purchase of my first watch from my collection. Here it is. It's the Seiko Alpinist, a field watch which really, I think, isn't a field watch, but something different. As you saw in my introduction, there are a lot of field watches at a variety of price points. It all depends on what you're looking for. But what really is the definition of a field watch? Well, I'm not the expert, but I've done a bit of digging and I found several articles about it, and I'll leave links in the description below. You want a watch that is durable, so it can take the punishment out in the field, whether that's the battlefield or in a field where you're hiking or in the mountains. You want something that is rugged. You also need it to be reliable as far as accuracy and readable, so that you can quickly look at the watch, tell what time it is, and get back to what you're doing. But it seems like field watches stemmed out of military watches and really came into existence in World War II, where several manufacturers, including Bulova, Altham, and Elgin, started manufacturing what's called A11 type watches. Now today, you can find field watches that are under $100, like the Seiko 5, or go into some of the luxury brands like Tudor with their Heritage Ranger that's over $2,000. It all depends on what you're looking for. In looking at field watches, one brand really struck my interest, and that's Hamilton. They have a variety of field watches, and they have other watches too. Now, they started out manufacturing in Lancaster, PA, focusing on watches for the military during World War II. Later on, in 1969, they ended their manufacturing in the US and moved to Switzerland. And in 1974, they were purchased by the huge conglomerate, the Swatch Group. One of the problems I had with their field watches was looking at their khaki line, their khaki field watch. And I was looking specifically at two models. One is the Hamilton Khaki Field King Auto, reference number H644555533. Now this retails for $545. The other one, which I must say I like a bit better, is the Khaki Field Day-Date Auto. This reference number is H70505733. Now it retails for relatively a bit more, $895. That's 50% more than the King Auto. And I was trying to figure out why the price difference. They both are 40mm watches. They're both stainless steel. They both have day date. The only difference I could really find was in the movement. The King Auto comes with the H40 movement, while the Auto Day Date comes with the H30 movement. And I've been trying to research what's the real difference between these two. Is it the beats per hour, which it isn't? Is there something else in the movement? And I really couldn't figure it out. And therefore, I couldn't rationalize to myself spending the extra money. So I sort of put that decision on hold for a later time. And I moved on looking at different field watches. And looking around for other field watches, I was doing my usual surfing on YouTube, and I came across several videos on different field watches. And again, I'll put the links below. One that really struck my interest was the Seiko Alpinist, the SARB 017, or the SARB 17. Now, this watch really struck my interest because it fits into one of my guiding principles of watch collecting. And that is, I want a relatively uncommon watch, a watch that non-collectors would not recognize. That's a double negative, but I think you get what I mean. And the reason for this is they'll recognize Seiko as a brand, but this watch is manufactured in Japan for the Japanese market. In fact, I don't even think there's an authorized dealer in the US. So you have to buy it either overseas and have it shipped here, or buy it through some gray market dealer. Now, I'm going to say something here which may be a bit controversial, but I don't consider it a field watch. Yes, it's rugged. Yes, it's got great accuracy. Yes, it's reliable. And it's fairly readable, although with those gold numerals and that green dial, it just seems a bit too stylish for a field watch. Something more of a casual watch or even a semi-dress watch. In fact, I wear it on this stainless steel strap, and I wear it to work with a dress shirt or even a sports jacket. It fits right in. Whereas going out in the field, getting dirty, I just don't see it with this watch. But I really like this watch. As for it being a mountaineering watch, yes, it has that inner rotating compass bezel, but is that really necessary? It's a cute little complication, but nobody goes out mountaineering or hiking without a compass. So I think of it more of as a conversation or interest point for the watch. So I decided that even though this is not what I would consider a field watch, it's a watch I really want. It fits into my guiding principles. From everything I can tell, it is a great watch, value for the money. And maybe I'll go back and buy what I consider a field watch later, but for now, I wanted this in my collection. So I went off looking for some retailers, and I found someone who seemed to be fairly reliable on eBay that would sell and ship the watch to me for $355. And I went and purchased it. Now, in full transparency, I should tell you that I'm making this video in August of 2018. I actually purchased the watch back in December of 2017. And in March of 2018, Seiko decided to discontinue the Alpinist. So they are still available on the secondary market, and some still have it, new watches for sale, but the price has gone up since I purchased it. Not that I'm going to sell it and try to make a quick buck, just to let you know that's what's going on with the Alpinist. At the same time I ordered the watch, I decided to order the strap code Jubilee bracelet for the watch. And they both came in at the same time. So let's go to the desk and take a closer look at my Seiko Alpinist. So although I don't normally do unboxings, let me show you how this watch was shipped to me. It came in this plain white box with what I assume is some sort of warranty card and the instruction manual and this watch box. Now, anybody who's looked at reviews of the Alpinist know that it comes on this, I guess, leather strap. Nobody has anything good to say much about the leather strap. So that is why when I ordered the watch, I also ordered this strap code Jubilee bracelet, as well as another strap that I will show to you later. So let's get some of the specifications of this SARB 017 out of the way. Of most importance is the diameter. It comes in at 38 millimeters, and I assume that's measured from the 2 to the 8 o'clock position. You can read the rest of the specs on the screen here. It comes with a Seiko 6R15 movement, which has a frequency of 21,600 beats per hour, which is why the second hand may seem to be a bit more jerky than some of the other watches that you look at. But the main attraction of this watch is that emerald green dial with the sunburst that reflects as you move it. It's got those gold numerals, black with white numerals for the date, and that outer rotating bezel by this second crown down at the 4 o'clock position that moves the compass. And I'll talk a bit about the compass later. It's a hacking watch, so if you move it all the way out to the third position, you get the second hand stopping, so you can really hack it accurately. Move it in one position and you are changing the date, quick adjust for the date, and of course in is winding, and it is a screw down crown. You can see that it's got a 20 bar or 200 meter water resistance. Mostly highly polished case with some satin or brush finished here on the lugs. Back is a simple screw down crown with some specifications on it. Now, as I said, I purchased this strap code called Angus Jubilee bracelet. Came in just over $100. I think it was $115. All solid links, solid end links, with this nice double clasp. And again, you can see that I've worn it a bit. I tend to scratch up my clasp because when I'm working at the computer, the clasp is rubbing against the desk. So now let's talk about that compass, which, as I said before, anybody who's going out hiking or mountaineering is going to bring along their compass or any sort of GPS system. So this is really, to me, a conversation item for the watch. But if you were to use this the way you use a compass, and it's probably not right to call it a compass because it doesn't necessarily point to north. You use the hour hand to determine where north or south is. Then you rotate the bezel to that point, and then you can tell any of the other compass directions by the numbers and the markings on the bezel. I'll leave a link in the description to how you actually determine north or south based on the hour hand of your watch. It's been called the Boy Scout trick, but in a pinch will help you figure out your direction. As you can see, the watch really doesn't have much lume. It's got lume on the hands and on these little hour pips. And I'll throw up a picture here of the lume at work. But it's not one of the major features of the watch, which supports my statement from before where I don't think it really lives up to what a true field watch should be. So in addition to the stainless steel bracelet, I purchased from Crown & Buckle this brown leather distressed strap, which really pairs well with the dark green dial and that high polished stainless steel case. This gets it looking a bit more like a field watch, but still I think those gold numerals and the high polished case just to me doesn't fit with a traditional field watch. But having said that, I really like the look of this watch. Now, one thing I should say is the accuracy of this watch. I've been getting remarkable accuracy, plus or minus 1, maybe 2 seconds a day. Now, it's not consistent. Sometimes it's plus 2 seconds, another day it's minus a second. And that could be due to the position I'm in. So I might want to get a time grapher to see which position has better accuracy. I've been looking at them and would appreciate any suggestions in the comments below that you have on which type of time grapher I should get. I'm not looking to spend a lot of money, but something that will enable me to measure the tolerance of the watch in all 6 positions. So leave me your suggestions below. So there you have it, my first purchase for my watch collection. Now I have to look at what's next. Please subscribe to this channel and hit the thumbs up button. That way I know you're enjoying the content and I should continue with this adventure.